Good evening and welcome to Suffering in Silence with Evangelist Tia here on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love Bay, we want you to remember that we're rising out of the ashes together. Our topic on tonight is MVP recovery. We have with us our co-host, Bob Wood, president of Rise Out of the Ashes, Inc. And we have who will be joining us also as co-host, Minister Connie Perkins, who's also a Philadelphia police officer. And our guest for the evening is Officer Leo Doyle. He is the LETI Outreach Coordinator, which we will learn much more about very soon. If you have any questions or comments for us, for our guest, or for our co-host, you can email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com, or you can text your questions or comments to 437-778-3299. If you have any resources that you would like to share with us on a national or local level from your country, your community, local organizations, or your faith community, you can also email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. And with that, Bob, I will ask if you would greet our listeners first on this evening.
Sure. Thank you so much. Always an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Hello to everybody. My name is Bob McComas Wood. I am currently a retired Title IX coordinator doing some side consulting work for some institutions that have contacted me. And as you know, throwing my hat into the acting ring and doing extra work and that kind of thing. And 2 weeks ago, I, did the Philadelphia gangster guy and did the mob boss thing. So yeah, it's nice being retired.
Yeah, you use that word retired loosely.
I know. Anyway, welcome to the show. Constance, Leo, it's a pleasure to have you here. And I am a retired Baltimore City police officer, as
Awesome.
Leo has said. So a little bit of common ground.
Thank you. Connie, would you greet our listeners on tonight?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Hello, everybody. My name is Constance Perkins, and I am grateful and blessed to be here with you guys tonight. I just pray that everyone listening, whether it be just a little or a lot, they get help and that we give them exactly what they need to get answers to their situation, no matter what it is.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Officer Leo Doyle, if you would introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers on tonight.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. My name is Leo Doyle. I'm a still current active police officer. I'm a 15-year vet, police corporal for Ridley Township Police Department. I'm also a master level behavioral therapist at Miramont Treatment Center. I specialize in treating first responders and military members that are suffering from mental health and addiction. And I'm also the LETI Law Enforcement Treatment Initiative Coordinator for MVP recovery.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Listeners, as usual, we want to start with sharing some resources. First, again, if you would like to donate to our GoFundMe for Rise Out of the Ashes, Inc., you can go to GoFundMe and donate to help us in our endeavors and what we continue to do with our immediate and emergency funding. We provide finances for doctor visits, transportation, food, clothing, school supplies, those immediate needs, including medication, help with utilities, rent, mortgages, and education. So if you would like to help us do that, please visit our GoFundMe page. You can go directly to GoFundMe and look for Rise Out of the Ashes, Inc. The first resource that I actually want to share is the website for MVP. The website is mvprecovery.org, and Officer Doyle is going to give us much more information on MVP recovery. I want to also share Pastor Darius Daniels. He's a pastor of Change Church. He has several locations in the United States. His website is dariusdaniels.com. His YouTube channel is Darius Daniels TV. We have the National Teen Dating Abuse Helpline. Their website, and this is for the United States, is their website, loveisrespect.org. Their phone number is 1-866-331-9474. In the UK, we have the National Domestic Abuse Helpline. Their website is nationaldahelpline.org.uk. Their phone number is 080820000247. And also in the UK, we have Women's Aid. Their website is womensaid.org.uk. And then we have the Asia Foundation. Their website is asiafoundation.org. And so with that, listeners, we go into our topic on tonight, which is MVP recovery. I actually met Officer Doyle not too long ago. We were both speakers at an event in Ridley Township. The event itself dealt with mental health awareness, and so we were both speakers. And I have to tell you, after listening to Officer Doyle, I was completely impressed. Officer Doyle is involved with internet crimes against children. He's a therapist. He will explain to you what this is. He's a part of the Viper program. He's a part of the HERO program, LETI, which is Law Enforcement Treatment Initiative, that falls under MVP recovery. And he will tell us about that. But I was just so impressed because so long, I've been asking, where are the officers? Like, where are the police officers? You know, like, where's the help, you know, in our communities? And like, I know Minister Connie, I know Bob, because I work with them because of what we do. Like, we've crossed paths, and it's like, unless I literally, you know, work with an officer, I, you know, would find myself asking, like, well, where's the help? Where are the programs? And so when Officer Doyle started speaking, I was like, oh my God, like, it does exist. Like, this is real. And he just kept running from one program to the next. And I'm like, one man is doing all of this. And it was just amazing. I was just very, very impressed. And so I asked him to come onto the program and talk to us about it. So Officer Doyle, I just want to turn it right over to you. If you would just, you know, explain to us, you know, what MVP recovery is.
Sure. And thank you so much for having me. That was a nice introduction I could imagine. So thank you. So I guess I got to rewind a little bit. A police officer at Ridley Township, you know, my passion has always been to be able to help people, you know, especially children. You know, you mentioned that I do internet crimes against children. You know, it's so important in the first responder world to have compassion, and it's something that police officers especially struggle with. You know, a symptom called compassion fatigue, you know, where we just keep seeing, you know, the same thing over and over again, and just the things that are just destroying communities. You know, drug addiction, you know, people suffering with mental health issues. And kind of like to piggyback off what you said, you know, where is the help? And a lot of it falls on our first responders, and like I said, especially the police officers, and it can wear on them. So Ridley Township has a program where you can continue your education. So I chose to enroll to get my master's degree to become a therapist. I thought that, you know, kind of being able to bridge the two worlds would be a good thing. And I thought, you know, maybe I could help treat the children that are, you know, victims of the internet crimes that I deal with. So as I was going through my education at Rosemont to get my degree in counseling, COVID hit, and I had to become you have to do a year-long internship. It's a very extensive program, and so I had the honor to be picked up by Miramont Treatment Center. And I started working with another therapist, Allison Kessler, in this program called the Viper program. And it deals with first responders and military members that are struggling with addiction and mental health. And that was never something that I was super interested in. You know, in fact, it was getting to be a lot, dealing with, you know, people suffering with addiction. Ridley Township, Delaware County, we got hit pretty hard with the heroin epidemic. Ridley Township was the first department to administer Narcan. To just kind of give you, a look into how much we were dealing with the drug issue. So I really started to open my eyes to just, there's so much under, there's so much lying under the surface of those that are suffering from, addiction and mental health issues, whereas police officers, especially police officers see, come on scene to a parent overdosed and kids, not fed or, malnourished or not dressed well, and what it does is it just beats up our officers. It takes a toll where, you see someone suffering from a drug addiction, and it becomes that equals a bad person. And really, when you're able to take a step back from it, that's just not the case. And I think that wears on our first responders' own mental health. You start seeing the world from such a skewed view of, those that are suffering are just drug addicts, right? And it's easy to do that, and it's really not our first responders' fault. It's, there's just not a lot of education about it. It's just we're so caught up into this, going from call to call to call, and I'm sure the other police officers on the screen can talk about how, we don't have that many police officers as we once did, and it can be said for a lot of careers out there. While working at Miramont, I started a nonprofit with Allison Kessler and another therapist, Jess Malavi, called Helping Emergency Responders Overcome. And what we were doing, and we're still doing, is going across to any police department, any first responders, EMTs, communications, corrections officers, and we're teaching a program about how mental health awareness, how our responders can take care of themselves better, and how they can better understand the addiction and mental health that we're seeing out there on the streets. So that's my nonprofit, Hero. Again, helping emergency responders overcome. So while doing Hero, myself and Allison Kessler and Jess Malavi had this idea that, maybe we could help the people that the police are seeing on the street, get them into treatment rather than just punitive consequences. Maybe if someone were to, suffer from, steal something while addicted to heroin, and they're just trying to pay for their heroin addiction, we could right there get them on scene into treatment. And just as we were thinking that, we heard about, at the time, the Attorney General's program, Shapiro, who's now Governor Shapiro. He had come up with an idea that is just what my passion is, and it's called LETI, Law Enforcement Treatment Initiative. And that's why I'm here today. So while doing these dual roles of being a police officer and a therapist at Miramont, MVP Recovery brought in this program called LETI. And what LETI is, I guess I'll just try to explain it, the nuts and bolts of it. So LETI is a 3-pronged program. There's 3 tracks to it. The first track is someone walks up to a police officer and says, I need help. I'm struggling with addiction. Or the police officer goes to a domestic dispute where, parents are fighting with child struggling with an addiction to some, let's say he's an alcoholic or she's an alcoholic. 24, living at home, and parents are just at their wits' end. Well, right there on scene, the police officers that wear many different hats can become interventionists. And what they can do is they can call this hotline, call MVP, who will come out on scene. And if that person chooses to, they can actually get them insurance on scene and get them into a treatment center. All right. And then there's track 2, where I'll give you an example of an arrest that I had. Track 2 involves an arrest. Okay. So I was in my patrol vehicle and I observed a domestic dispute going on in a vehicle. The vehicle had like an out brake light. I stopped the car, and right on the right on the occupant's lap was, drugs. This new drug out there called Trank, which is involved in fentanyl. And so and maybe it's not that new, but it was newer to Ridley Township at the time. And so when I was talking to the person, she was, in her 50s, had never been arrested before. I said, listen, rather than have you sit in a jail cell and see a judge, you can enter this program called LETI. And what it is if you go to inpatient treatment for 28 days and then do approximately 60 days of IOP, intensive outpatient treatment, you can have the charges to this arrest dropped and your record will be clean. And she chose to do it, and she did the 90 days of the program and has a clean record. She now has a job. She came to court. It was like a really joyous moment. And then track 3 is where at the court level, a judge and the district attorney can have the person enroll into the LETI program. But my main focus with the LETI program is the track 1 and track 2. And what we're doing is we're educating police officers that this is a tool in their tool belt, rather than, having to arrest someone or having to lean on the crisis system. We now have another tool in our tool belt where we can help that person on scene. And maybe, and the way I try to explain it to the police officers that I train with the LETI program is, maybe there's a house where you're going to every day. It's the same thing. The person's drunk in their house, and it's legal to be drunk in your house, right? There's nothing you can do. But to come on scene, to be able to call up MVP Recovery, who will send out a CRS, a Certified Recovery Specialist, to that house with the police officer or to the police station with the police officer, and be able to have, an expert in addiction with that police officer, and to help explain, the fruits of sobriety and recovery. And, it's kind of like a real beautiful merger of our law enforcement community with experts in addiction, or mental health, and it's like a step in that direction of combining the two to work together. So we've seen a lot of success. I got brought on with MVP last May, and we're coming up on 40 police officer LETI referrals, so track 1 or track 2 LETI referrals just in Delaware County. And there's been a couple of departments that have picked it up, and they really, really like it. So that's basically what I do.
Well, that's a lot of what you do. So I was going to ask you how you measure success. Do you measure it by the amount of officers that come in and you teach this program to? Or is success measured by the individuals who actually go through the program, and maybe they're standing at the end? How do you measure success?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So the therapist part of me, the part of me that started the HERO program, I would measure success starting with the police officer. Starting with the police officer that works a beat every day, or they say police officers work more than they see their families. We work 12-hour shifts, 7 out of every 14 days, and with overtime usually more. And for that police officer that might be suffering from compassion fatigue, where they're just same thing every day, to maybe see someone that they spoke to enter treatment, or graduate the program, and to see that calls stop at the house, or, to see maybe a dad pushing their kid on a stroller down the street, just one time, might be enough to show that police officer, that people can get better, they can change, maybe prison isn't always the answer. And then I do believe it's successful, and the success part is not measurable, with just numbers of how many people go through the program, but, helping to shift the culture, helping to, stand in front of,
20 other police officers at a time, and maybe one of them has a family member suffering from addiction, or maybe they know someone that they care about suffering from addiction, and then other police officers starting that conversation. Maybe people that are doing narcotics or suffering from addiction aren't necessarily bad people. I hope that answers your question, but yeah, I can't say that the success is based off numbers, but the numbers are, we think pretty good, almost 40 in a couple of months, 8 months or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I did not know that the program was so new. I didn't. I mean, listening to you speak and reading up and researching what you do, I thought this was years in.
Well, it's been around for about, I think, 2.5, 3 years. I really can't. Shapiro did come up with it when he was the Attorney General, but it bounced around. And when I speak about LETI, I speak only from the perspective of Delaware County. I don't know what's exactly going on in, Montgomery County with the LETI program, or, Monroe County up, in that area up in northern Pennsylvania. But I can speak from Delaware County, that we've been out promoting it since I started in May. An MVP took over the LETI contract, I think, right around the time I started back in May. So I think maybe Crozier Hospital had it for a while, and a couple other places, but us boots on the ground training police officers has only been since about May.
Okay, awesome. So I want to ask a question, and then I'll go to Bob and Connie for any questions or comments they may have. You touched on it a little bit, but I want to ask, some people don't get help for addictions. They don't get help for mental health issues, and they may actually want help, but they don't seek it out because they don't have medical insurance. So can you talk a bit more about how MVP recovery deals with that aspect of it, of individuals going through the program who don't have insurance?
Yeah, so that's actually what makes MVPs just such a great, recovery is just such a great company. That's like their main job. I think they've gotten 1,000 people into treatment in the past year, a couple of years maybe. And they're based out of Chester's, basically the place I go. They have offices in Media and Exton. But with the LETI program, it's really fantastic. It has funding, and it's backed by the county. So any person, that the police deal with that is a police contact, whether they're from Philadelphia or they're from, wherever, MVP can on scene get them insurance. They don't just have to be from Delaware County. Whereas if it's not a LETI program, I think it gets a little, the waters get a little muddy. It might be a little bit more difficult. But with the LETI program, it is about ease of operation. And that's what's just so beautiful about the program, is that they will get them insurance on scene and get them into a treatment center that accepts the insurance that they get. Maybe it's a state-funded insurance program. We had a lady out of Ridley Township where they went to Pyramid Treatment Center in East Stroudsburg. And there was a lift that drove the person from Ridley Township all the way up to East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and got them into treatment. And the person, I believe, completed treatment.
Awesome. So, and there are several locations, as you mentioned. So Love Bay, there are 2 locations in Media. There's a location in Chester, and this is all Pennsylvania. We're in the United States. This is Pennsylvania. So 2 locations in Media, Pennsylvania. There's a location in Chester. There's a location in Exton, and actually 2 locations in Chester. So if you go to the website, again, mvprecovery.org, you can get the addresses, the contact information for anyone who is looking for or could use these services. With that, Bob, do you have a question or comment for?
I think it's a great program. Pardon me. I'm going to age myself now. I'm 70. When I was still on active duty and worked plainclothes narcotics, we were in the quote war on drugs, which, as we all know, has been not such a successful endeavor, using the word war, because again, as you're saying, it treated what was right there in front of you. It didn't treat the cause of what was behind the addictions and things of that nature. And the irony of that is, when I left police work, I told you I went into education, and I worked in the same areas dealing with families whose children were suffering social issues and pardon me, and educational issues due to what was going on at home. I mean, and people, I don't think a lot of people put the domino effect together with that. I mean, the one just knocks everything else down. And anybody that's been there knows it. My biggest question, when I ran the program I ran in Baltimore for the students, there was a lot of federal funding involved in it, and we did a lot of bending the knee to the federal funds to keep the fund coming. And unfortunately, that federal funding was then eventually removed. And I won't go through the argument I had about that, but that's my when I'm listening to things here, that police part of me takes over. Okay, there's transportation, there's this, there's that, and police departments, they're big on don't run up the bill. um, is that, I guess I'm asking, long term, is the funding secure through the state or federal government for these programs so that they do continue? Because the need's there, and I think it's a great program. It's something that should be done.
Yeah, it's a really good question. That's just such a level above me. I sit there and think, if the Governor Shapiro is behind it and this is his baby, I'm assuming that we're good as long as he's the governor. I would hope. But that's a really great question, and we're actually, MVP was asked to, because it's been so in with the police boots on the ground, getting people in. We were asked to come up and speak at a roundtable with the Attorney General in Penn State. So questions like that, I think would be, and I think the Attorney General is actually coming to media in about a month, and they ask MVP and myself to be there. So, those types of things, I'm assuming, the money's there. But yeah, it's a great question, and it's not, you're not the first person to ask that. Everyone's like, hey, where's the money coming from? And I just know that the Ridley Township, for example, isn't paying for the lift. It's coming. And like you said, I think that there's such a need for it. You look out at, all you hear about is Kensington. And I think that the communities surrounding Philadelphia know that we've got to make this a top priority. We've got, as you said, treating the source of this, not just putting someone in prison, but trying to, stop the addiction as a whole, treating the person that is struggling and getting them in the recovery and long-term recovery is the answer to what used to be the war on drugs. And like you said, I've been a police officer for 15 years. So, this program like this wasn't around when I started.
Right.
Awesome. Connie, do you have a question or comment?
Yes. The City of Philadelphia Police Department has some things in play when it comes to, mental health advocates coming to jobs that, we have to deal with mental health people in crisis. And I'm not sure of anything like MVP. And as an officer, it's been times when I seen people that I just want to help, like you said, instead of locking them up, because I see that they're, using that to deal with whatever issues are going on. They're using the drugs, they're using, the violence, they don't have resources, so they're stealing, they can't control their emotions, so they're fighting. And like you said, the children are the ones that suffer when it comes to those situations. So I would love to connect with you, Officer Doyle, to hopefully maybe get the Philadelphia Police Department um, in some kind of way connected with or trying to start a program to help them, because you have a lot of people, like you said, on the Trank, Kensington, Allegheny, and that area is infested with a lot of people that's on drugs. And, some of them went out and don't know how to, they just constantly going through a cycle of, just being high, being out of it. And some of them don't know how to ask for help. But if we had the resources in play, like, Ridley Township, then we can just go to these people and say, listen, either you choose to do this, or we're going to have to, take legal action. And I'm sure a lot of people don't want to be in jail instead of, getting help. And I think that this program is just, an excellent tool, just in, not just in law enforcement, just in, life period, because someone doesn't have to come in contact with these people through law enforcement, that they can reach out to, these agencies through LETI and through the MVP found corporation or foundation or whatever it is in that state with the title, but just to make sure that it's a resource there. So my question is, if there would be a way that I could like connect with you to try and find out where that this can get started at in the police department, so that I can take to the people that are in. We have a new mayor, we have a new commissioner, and I'm sure they would be definitely interested in making sure that something like this will help us with trying to get things done with cleaning up the streets of Philadelphia.
Absolutely. I would love to connect with you for sure. I think it's, I totally agree with you, really everything you said. And it's just, so, many people ask me, because I deal with addiction, and, not just the mental health, but the addiction part, I get asked a lot of, am I in recovery, or if I, am sober or anything like that. And I'm not, I'm not in recovery. I thankfully don't suffer from the disease of addiction. And I didn't know much about it before, I became a therapist. And part of the training with LETI, and these CRSs and MVP, I guess I should back up a little bit. MVP is how this is working. It's police officers that are open to the idea. It's police officers that believe that there is need for this, and that police officers that want to have that compassionate bone in their body, to meet, hey, maybe we'll give this person a shot, right? But having CRSs, certified recovery specialists, from MVP, people in recovery, to come on scene, you can just see the change. Hey, I'm so and so from MVP. I've got 3 years clean. We can get you there. We can start this journey. You can start to gain trust in your family back. You're going to die out here on the streets. I was out here on the streets with you. Those conversations are happening with law enforcement present. And, part of my trainings with police officers are, I didn't know all of the language, and so now I go to scenes where someone's suffering from addiction, and my, knowledge, where I say, like, hey, do you have any clean time? What was your longest period of sobriety? And things like that just change, where maybe it was a police, an us versus them type of interaction, and on a dime, wow, this police officer's asking me, well, hey, officer, I had a year clean 3 years ago, and then, okay, we can get you there. How was that year? Was that a good year? Yeah, I had my family back. I was able to see my kids. I saw let's get there. Let's get you into treatment. Those are the type of things that we're talking about in our trainings, that police officers in Delaware County and in the departments that we've trained are using on scenes, and you can just see the change. You can see the numbers of the LETI referrals from law enforcement are just growing. So I would love to connect with you and try to come up with ideas, because Philadelphia would be on a very large scale, but I know that the LETI program is for all of Pennsylvania. So that would be fantastic to connect with you.
Yes. Just to be brief about just a testimony. I had a young lady, and I was just sitting on a traffic post, and I got people running up to me saying, she's unresponsive, drug overdose, and things like that. So I'm running to check the scene, grab my Narcan, and use my Narcan, went over radio, call for 911, and once she came to, she refused rescue. She didn't want to go with rescue to the hospital. But I know if I had something, because she sat there for about another hour with different people coming up to her, the same familiar faces, the people who were sharing in her drug addiction. And she sat on that step for about a good hour. Somebody had gave her a bottle of water. She sat there and she drank the water. And then she just got up and walked off. And I felt so helpless. Like, I wish I had something to offer this lady. Like, I can't lock you up for, overdosing because I didn't see you use any narcotics. I'm not looking for any. My job right now is to help you so that you don't die. Because she literally was gone, And when rescue came and she started to gain consciousness right before they pulled up, and then they did their assessment and asked her to go to the hospital, she was like, no, I don't want to go. But I would have loved to have something like this to offer her so that she could. And then she was an older mother. She's like, she was somebody's grandmother, and I'm like, I wish I had something like that to offer her. So that's important that, if it's for Pennsylvania, that we get different police departments involved in this so that, we can have, the networking in place to be able to offer these services across the board.
Can I throw something out? Tia knows that I've done a lot of work with Native American population, been to the reservation a couple of times. And there's always, and a lot of people that I have worked with are in recovery programs for various Native American groups. And the word intergenerational trauma always comes up. Mm-hmm. And it always seems to be, focused in that area. And you probably know the psychology of this much, much better than I, but I know through observation, I don't care where you go in this country, if you have this problem with the parents, all of those stressors, all of the anxiety, all of the distrust, which you were just talking about, Constance, the distrust of an authority figure trickles right down, and so do the problems. So that intergenerational trauma is passed on pretty much across the board. You don't have to be, in Pine Ridge Reservation for this to happen. You can be in Chicago. You can be Detroit. You can be right here in Phoenixville, where I am. And that's another one too. People are mistaken to believe that the drug issues, the addiction issues, are in certain areas. Oh no. It's across the board. My wife was, and I'm not going to name what, but my wife was in the medical profession for years. There are tons of people there that self-medicate. Not a good thing. And a lot of the same, different stressors, but a lot of the same depression, anxiety. And as you say, I know myself, and I'll be the first one to say this. When I walked away from law enforcement, when I retired, it was time, because I felt myself becoming calloused. And I didn't want to be, because that's not me. And at that time, I went in the late 70s, so we're talking a different time frame. Going for departmental psychologist, that was like putting a red tag on your ear. That was just something people didn't do. And I think departments have come a long way in addressing that, which is a good thing. But I can remember people in that they themselves, when the law enforcement side started having a little too much to drink, they, in many ways, they became addicted to the job. I know guys had 30, 35 years in, hated coming to work, but wouldn't retire, wouldn't walk away. And I see the head shaking, and it's difficult because I distinctly remember one gentleman. I don't know what to do with myself. I said, well, you've been solving everybody's problem for 30 years. Come on. I mean, you have skills that you're not seeing as skills beyond this. So again, I'm saying I guess the point I'm making is no matter where you are, these things we are talking about, they have a root, but they keep getting passed down. And unless we cut that somewhere, it's just going to keep on going. It's going to keep on going. So that's why this program, for me, as a guy who was involved in the quote war on drugs, I wish we'd have had this tool then.
Yes.
I wish we'd have had it because I cannot tell you how many times I ended up arresting the same person 4, 5, 6 times, over and over again.
So, Leo, I think that moves into a question that I wanted to ask you. The programs that you serve in are not just for the individuals who may come into contact with police who may be in a situation where they're about to be arrested, or it's not just for individuals that way. You have programs where you actually help police officers and first responders, the ones who are dealing with seeing the crisis every day. So can you talk about how your programs, how you actually are there and you have assistance for the police officers and first responders to deal with their stress and and what they see on their job every day?
Yeah. And thank you for highlighting that. So that program I started with the 2 other therapists, Hero, helping emergency responders overcome. We're on Facebook. I think there's a picture of me and the other therapist on there if you want to check it out. But we've trained, I'd have to say, I don't have the data in front of me, but well over 1,000 responders in the Delaware County area. We've been up to Hershey for the Pennsylvania State Police, been down to Delaware and trained negotiators in Hero. And really the passion behind Hero is just letting our responders know that there is help out there. I say this in complete honesty. Prior to becoming a therapist, and again, this was just Ridley Township, just having a program and me thinking, we deal with so much mental health stuff and I'd like to help these kids. Why don't I become a therapist? I had no idea, that there was help. As a young police officer, I dealt with an infant that passed away from SIDS. And we did CPR on the infant, and obviously the infant was pronounced deceased on scene. And I had to stand over the baby for a couple of hours. I think it was like 2 hours. It was freezing cold. The house was freezing. House was very, it was not a very nice home. And I remember looking at the baby infant, and I was single at the time, no children. I was just a 26-year-old police officer, and looking at a baby, and I didn't realize the babies had like fingernails, like the baby had long fingernails. It looked like a doll to me. And when I cleared the scene there, I went and answered, I think, like a keys locked in vehicle call. And I remember whatever call it was, the person was not happy with how long it took me to get there. And that was it. That was there was no, taking someone aside, you see a deceased infant, you think that would be, an earth shattering moment. It's just, that's part of the job, and you think about, I've probably been a part of, 300, death investigations in my life or in my career. And I'm sure, I speak for the other 2 police officers on scene, that might be low numbers for them. And, again, prior to becoming a therapist, I had no idea that there were services out there for police officers and first responders. I had no idea that there were communities like the Viper program at Miramont Treatment Center that specialize in dealing with people that are first responders and the traumas that we see. So that was such a passion behind this, was just getting the word out there. And a lot of it becomes, the first responders that I train, I give my cell phone number to everyone, and they just end up calling and saying, hey, I'm so-and-so from the volunteer fire company. I'm struggling. I don't have great insurance. Can you help me? And it's like, yeah, I'll help you. I'll help you find a therapist that will help you. I'll help you find someone that's willing to do pro bono work for a volunteer firefighter, or perhaps Miramont Treatment Center will help you with a scholarship into their program. It's just whatever I can do to help that responder, because, the other side of it is, the responder, as, Robert said, is like leaning on alcohol, or maybe self-medicating, or going home and fighting with their spouse. The divorce rates are through the roof for first responders. Or they're coming home and they're isolating, or they're quitting their job, or the worst is dying by suicide. And we've had too many officers die by suicide, just in the county that I work in during my career. So that's the passion behind it. And I believe that LETI and HERO are both equally important, because I believe that LETI is helping officers, and LETI is only for police officers, where HERO is any first responder. But LETI is, helping the police officers see, it doesn't have to always be the same thing day in, day out. People can recover. And that's actually like a part of MVP's slogan, like, we do recover. And then with HERO, it's just about getting the word out there. Hey, there's a safe place, and I probably can speak for the other two police officers on screen. All of a sudden in the first responder world, you tell your business to somebody, and, everyone knows about it. Hey, it's struggling, or, people just talk, right?
Yes.
Well, to know that there's a safe place that, as a therapist, it's part of my, it's part of my job is privacy and secrecy. Now, you say certain things like you want to harm yourself, we have to kick it up a level. But for the most part, the things that are said stay there. And for Viper, that's part of the oath. Things that are said here stay here. And that's the oath we read before every Viper meeting. And it's to just remind those first responders that this is a safe place for you, and military members too, because Viper does both. But I hope that answers your question, not to go on and on about it.
Now, I just have to say again, I am just absolutely amazed. I think that this is awesome. I mean, I've never heard of these programs until we crossed paths, at the event that we were at. I just think that this is amazing. So again, I congratulate you on all of this work that you are doing. It's wonderful. It really is. I want to ask you one more question. We're just under the hour, but I want to ask you, in the work that you do, all of these programs that you're involved with, how does domestic violence come into play with what you do? Like where and when, or how do you see domestic violence when you're dealing with all of the issues with the addictions and the stress, and whether it's individuals who may be on the side of the wrong side of the law, or if you're actually dealing with first responders or officers or militaries from both sides? How does domestic violence play into what you see and do?
Yeah, so domestic violence is one of the most difficult things to deal with. As a speaking from my perspective as a police officer, it's just the scenes are just terrible. You go on scene and you husband hits wife, kids are crying. It's just a horrible scene. And that again plays into kind of like what I was saying earlier about when police officers are on scene, it's just it's just the bad that is seen, right? So you see the husband that's drinking and not in the normal state of mind, or the state of mind that they should be in, making decisions, rash decisions, going down, just continuing their spiral with addiction. Typically they go hand in hand. You see a lot of addiction and correlation with domestic violence. It's very rare. Do you go on scene? I can speak for my career. I would say very rare off the top of my head, that you would go on scene to domestic violence where substances aren't in play, where it's not, so-and-so was out drinking all night and came home and, was physically violent with their partner. It's usually always hand in hand with some sort of substance, some sort of mind-altering substance that adds, fuel to the fire of whatever DV is happening, for sure.
Well, this is again. I'm just dumbfounded because I've never heard of these programs and all of this work that you do. So I'm just amazed. My hat is off to you for the work that you do and for the officers that work with you. To Connie and Bob, what you do and what you have done. I've always said, that officers, every officer is not a bad officer. Every day your job is to put your life on the line for someone else. And there are some officers such as yourselves who actually care about your work. You care about the people. And then this is not you just going to work, doing your 9 to 5, and then you go home. I mean, these programs that you are involved in, this is above and beyond. This is truly putting your heart into what you do. I mean, Connie puts her heart into what she does. It's not just her shift. I mean, we work together and Bob. So I just commend you. I commend all of you. And I thank you for what it is that you're doing. I think we are just under the hour. So I just want to ask you all, and we'll start with Connie, just your final words on this evening that you want to leave with our listeners. I want to share again the website for MVP Recovery. It is mvprecovery.org. The phone number is 855-MVP-2410. You can go to the website and get more information. And again, there are 2 locations in Media, Pennsylvania, 2 in Chester, and 1 in Exton. And with that, Connie, I would ask you to go first and just leaving your comments for this evening.
Yes, I commend you, Officer Doyle, for, the work that you've done, and not just the work that you've done with the program, the fact that you are sharing it and you're taking time out of your life, to, show compassion and help other people. It goes a long way. Just doing a little bit, and you have so many things that, you have to offer people as a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not over. You don't have to, be down and out. This don't have to be the end. The prison doors doesn't have to be your last step, So I commend you for what you're doing. And like I said, I would definitely love to connect with you to find out how we can implement this in Philadelphia and who we can speak to, because I don't have to be a part of it in order to want it to be there and to help. So, whoever needs to be contacted, and, whoever I need to, connect with you or connect with your program organizers, so that we have something like that here, would definitely be a blessing. I'm praying for you and your family that you stay safe, what you're doing out there, because sometimes it's hard. You go to help people, and the drugs and the things that they're on, they start to hallucinate, and they want to attack us, and it's not easy to do our job, let alone get somebody help after we have to do our job. So God bless you, sir. I'll be praying for you and your family, and look forward to meeting and connecting with you soon.
Thank you. Bob?
And, Bob, it's good to see you again.
Always good to see you. Always good. Always good. I'm going to start by saying this, and I know you two are going to agree. I don't care how long it's been since you retired from police work. It's like the Marine Corps. You will always be a cop. It's always there. You're always going to take that look. You're always going to sit in a position. My poor wife, it was 5 years before she saw the front of a restaurant after I just couldn't do it. I'm like, nope, I want to see people coming and going. And we still have a tendency to notice things and look at things a certain way. We just do. That being said, want to commend you for the program across the board, from working with first responders to working with the people that are being responded to that need help. I think one of the biggest, for me, the biggest element or the most important element that I'm hearing is the education of the first responders, that it's not just, this person's an addict and they're a junkie. Bam. I mean, that's what you used to hear. I mean, like I said, it was when I was in, it was war on drugs. And I think you have sharpened the shears, shall we say. I said, the root of that needs to be cut so it doesn't go to the next generation. And I think you're the first pair of shears out there trimming the hedge, so to speak. And I think that's an excellent thing. I know it's Irish. I'm sorry, I'm Irish. I make analogies. We'll talk all night. But it just needs to be done. And again, that, honest to God, it's on both sides of the fence. It's for the first responders and it's for the people that need the first responders. And there needs to be an understanding between the two for, to help bring that to an end. I mean, ironically, thinking of somebody who was a hostage, all I said was, and I knew the person didn't want to hurt anybody, and I knew there was something else behind it, and I said that, and then they got them the help, and it was the one-off when I worked. It wasn't the norm. It was the one-off. And I said it shouldn't be the one-off. It should be the norm. I didn't come into this job because I want to hurt people. I came in this job because I want to help people. And so I think that's it's commendable. God bless you. And again, keep going forward and keep your head down and stay safe.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Constance. Stay safe. I sound like the old Hill Street Blues. Stay safe out there. But, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And so with that, Officer Doyle, if you would just give us our final word for the evening, your final thought, what you want to leave our Love Bay listeners and viewers with.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the kind words. Can't wait to connect with you further. All of you. I'm super interested in the whole Philadelphia and seeing what we can do. And I appreciate your kind words. Also, Bob, thank you. And it's been a pleasure. Getting to know you. Hearing your story. At that speaking event was eye-opening. And your passion, it bleeds. So appreciate you allowing me to have this platform. Maybe this can continue the spread of. And I just so appreciate everyone's time and allowing me to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And of course, Love Bay, Officer Doyle will be back. He will be back. Again, thank you so much. Again, the website is mvprecovery.org. And with that, Love Bay, if you want to catch up on previous episodes from our program, you can visit our YouTube channel, Suffering in Silence DV. We just thank you so much for joining Suffering in Silence with Evangelist Tia on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. And Love Bay, we want you to remember that we're rising out of the ashes together.